Hello again. It is Monday, June 3rd, almost halfway through the year, I think. Uh, and we are still meeting. It's hard to believe that we still have things to talk about. Tonight,
Despite Adam being here.
despite, right. Well, maybe we should just spend an entire meeting talking about Adam one day. Um, Tonight we have Jack Boatwright joining us, and um, Jack is one of the OGs, as it were. He had one of the first websites for the Timex Sinclair stuff back in, gosh, I think the late 90s, early 2000s. Um,
No, it
Jack
was in
was
the 90s.
was it okay? And
It
Jack
was
was
in the
involved
90s.
in a bunch of, shall we say, rescues, and ended up with a lot of stuff at his house. And people found out about him, and they'd reach out to him and say, "Hey, do you have this thing?" And Jack would have that thing. Um, so, without further ado, Jack, I'm going to spotlight you and pump you with some questions, because the first thing we want to know is, how on earth did you decide that a Timex Sinclair computer was the thing for you?
Well, I remember way back in the day, this must have been 81 when Timex was advertising on the TV, the power is within your reach. Um, I didn't have the money, of course, but I thought, wow, that's the way to go. And what I did, I ended up buying a ZX81 from a high school kid up in Redmond. I live in Bend, Oregon, and Redmond's about 17 miles away. Anyway, I bought the ZX81. It had a 16K byte back RAM pack with it,
Oh, wow.
and a manual and a book. And I don't remember what the name of the book is anymore, but and that's how I got into it.
And what did you do with your 81? Well, actually, first of all, so Bill Gates was not a high school kid in 1981, so you didn't buy it from him. But maybe somebody else that ended
No,
up working at Microsoft. It's quite likely. So what did you do with your 81? I mean, they are notoriously moderately powered.
eventually I put it inside a cradle.
Hmm.
And I'm sure everybody knows what a cradle is. I'm not sure if everybody's ever had one, but I put it inside a cradle. Took it out of the ZX81 case and built a little stand for one side, the side that wasn't plugged in because it wobbled, and plugged it in there. Then later on, and I don't remember where I got this board. It was a little board you plug in that would allow you to have two operating systems. And I had Tom Bent's, uh, the one that he modified that would you when you powered up your computer, it went directly into fast mode, and it cured some of the errors in the ROM. Uh, so I had that on one side, and I had uh, Treeforth was what it was named, but a fourth on the other side, and it was from Treeforth.
Yeah.
So,
And
but mine, and I think you and I, when we were talking the other day, I didn't realize it at the time, but we were comparing uh,
the cradles.
the model, yeah, the model numbers or whatever it was, serial numbers,
Yeah.
and mine was 11 something. I can't remember. I'd have to go get it to look again. But I got to thinking because you had uh, what one of the I/O boards that
Yeah.
that they made. I didn't. I tried to get one, but they didn't have any when I bought my cradle. And I think with the serial number as high as it was, they were probably out of it and not making anymore because they went out of business about as soon as I bought it.
But they spent all that money on those full color ads in sync. Um, so what happened? What happened after that? Where did you go from your 81 in a cradle?
Well, let's see, I didn't get the cradle, I think, until 83.
Yeah, maybe
It was
83.
about the time that Timex uh, went out of the business.
Yeah.
Immediately, I wanted all the programs for a TS 1000. So I went all over the state looking for programs for the 1000
Oh,
because
may I ask,
the local GI Joe didn't only had a few. What was that?
Jack, may I ask, did you want to get them because they were so inexpensive at the time because they were being blown out the door, or like they were
Yeah,
like,
I
okay,
just wanted. That's kind of my thing. I want one of everything if I can get it,
okay.
and so I went. I didn't try them all because some of them, when they burned, were still in saran wrap with the price tag on them. But anyway, I got all 81 of
Wow.
the 1000 programs,
Wow.
and it took a while to do it,
Yeah.
because I went most of the GI Joes at that time, and I don't know around the country if there's GI Joes. There aren't any here anymore.
That sounds
They
like that was
turned
a
into
store.
David.
Was that a
What's
store?
that?
Was that a store of some sort?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, it
okay.
was. It was a store. It was a big store back in those days.
Hmm.
But anyway, that's one of the things I did, and I wasn't into the 2068 stuff at the time because I didn't have enough money. Uh, but back when I was going around trying to find all the different programs for the 1000, they were like down to 99 cents each, and it was just a matter of finding them.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
was weird. They went from like 19.99 down to 99 cents in just a matter of a couple of months.
So what did you use your computer for?
Just I learned programming and stuff.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about computers, and a friend of mine at work decided he and I were talking. Said, "Man, that's the way to go. They're going to go with computers." We worked for the Department of Transportation here in Bend, Oregon, and they were getting ready uh, to go computerized. They were talking about going computerized.
Yeah.
Uh, at that time, the highest capacity it wasn't a computer. It was a calculator, HP 45,
Yeah.
and other than that, it was just the four function calculators. But the HP 45 was really sophisticated for those days. And so anyway, we decided that the way to go was to go computerized. He bought a Franklin Ace 1000, and I got a ZX81,
Well,
and just started. Of course, with back in those days, I had to get a cassette recorder,
hmm.
and back in those days, it was like to listen to it load. I don't know. You guys probably all remember that. And then get all done, and it wouldn't load. It had the RAM pack wobbled or something.
Very familiar with it.
Yeah. So
You gotta hold your mouth right. That's definitely true.
or something. Yeah.
Or something. So, Jack, was
So
there
anyway, that's how I got into it. Yeah. Go
was
ahead.
was there a user group or something near you, or were you the only one that you knew?
I was about the only one. There
Yeah.
was there was a computer outfit that met in the local library, but it wasn't just specific to one computer.
Okay.
And I met with them, but I really didn't get much out of meeting with them. So I quit going.
Um,
If I keep looking away, it's because my grandsons are going in and out the back door. Here, let me turn this. It's right there.
oh yeah, and your dog.
Yeah, one of the three. And a
Um,
cat.
So a number of did you subscribe to like any of the magazines? I mean, how did you stay in touch with folks? How did you get in touch with folks?
Man, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know really because well, maybe it was because about that time. No, I wouldn't belong to. I didn't go online then. Still, that was too sophisticated. I don't know what I did.
Well, somehow you ended up talking to Bob Swoger
Yeah.
and all the other folks in the Sir Clive Alive, Timex Sinclair.
Oh yeah, well, it started out with SUM some
Yeah.
magazine. I sent you all mine.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I went from there. Somehow somebody gave me a couple of TS Horizons,
Okay.
and I don't think I sent those to you. I think those got burned up.
Mm.
But I had all of them. I think there was 21 or 22
Yeah.
different volumes. I had all
These
of them.
are all club newsletters, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, some started out as a newsletter for the
Kind of that
Gainesville,
way.
Florida user group and turned into, a decent kind of magazine. And TS Horizons started out as a little magazine. It was oddballs. It was like printed on newsprint, and it was a real weird size, like 7x10 or something.
It's something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
And then let's see, there was
Well, there was eventually the T-Snug, right? And the folks out of Chicago publishing the Sir Clive Alive newsletter.
right.
And I've seen more than one or two letters from you in there, and I'm not sure if they came from, if you've sent them physical letters or if they were email that they had converted into put in there.
Probably emails.
Okay. And so there's a point, like, for instance, when Rod Gowan could no longer run his business, and he sent a message over to the Bob Swoger and company and said, somebody needs to come take this stuff before it goes to the landfill, and you ended up being a majority of that person.
I was that person. Yeah, I went and like I told you, David, I had at that time I had a Dodge Caravan. So I took out the rear seats, the bent seats,
Mm-hmm.
and I made three trips over to Rod's, picking up stuff that he was getting rid of.
And Rod was in where? I can't remember.
He was in Oregon City, Oregon.
Okay. Was that a long trip? I don't know Oregon that well.
Oh, 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
Okay.
One way.
One way. Okay. Wow. That's dedication. That's when you got all this stuff.
Well, it's just, that was I got some of it there, but like I told you the other day, I bought out FWD Computing, Frank Davis.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of you guys know him, but I bought out his business when he was going out of it. It's like,
Actually, I don't know what that is. I mean, I am new to this community, or semi-new, maybe not new anymore, but I am not an old school guy. So, so all this is,
you will be by the time we're done.
So what was that place? Are most people here familiar with them?
I
For
said
work?
you will be an old time guy by
Sure.
the time we're done here.
So
Anyway,
Was that
let's
a
go back
catalog
to
store? Or is that what that
let's
was?
go back to Rod for a minute because
Yeah.
Rod, after a while, wasn't making any monies with RMG Enterprises,
right.
which is why he got rid of the stuff. And he couldn't get anybody to buy it. He couldn't get anybody to do anything until I spoke up and said, well, I'll come and get your stuff. Don't
Mhm.
want it to go to the landfill. And so that's how that all transpired. He went from that into radio. Actually,
Hmm.
he had a radio program where he recorded old time music and then had it played on his program on the radio.
Hmm. Hmm. That's crazy. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
he was a nice guy. We every time I go over, we'd go out and have dinner and that kind of stuff.
Um, so Adam, Frank Davis and Paul Holmgren had a company called Mechanical Affinity, and they were, I don't know, an hour apart or something out in Indiana where they are. Um, and their ads would list both of the addresses. And I've asked Paul a little bit about this once in a while. It's like, well, how did you manage to run a business in two different locations with two different owners? And after a certain point in time, Paul stepped back, and it just became Frank doing his business and also publishing Update, which was a newsletter started by a guy in Florida. And Frank was, when did you buy Frank out, Jack? The 90s sometime?
It must have been, boy, I don't know, 96, 97,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
maybe. I don't remember for sure. Uh, but he said, no, he says, I'll give you this stuff. You just pay for the shipping. Well, the shipping was like $600. Uh, so, and here's an interesting little tidbit off of that. He sent me 9 boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
And I went through them all, of course. And at that time, I was still in the 1000. Anyway, I started picking out the 1000 programs that were in his boxes. And I got all my doubles, duplicates, with what came in Frank's boxes. And I had like 58 different Timex 1000 programs.
Wow.
And that was my very first auction on eBay.
Oh, you sold them on eBay?
I sold them on eBay. I got like 500 and some dollars for 58 1000 programs. So
Wow.
it paid for buying Frank's business. Plus, I still had 9 boxes full of stuff.
Wow.
So, for what it's worth.
I do miss those good old days of buying lots on eBay. Like when someone would sell like their entire thing, which I did that kind of thing myself back in the 90s. Sold a lot of things in lots. But you
Yeah.
don't see that very often anymore. Yeah.
And then I started going to thrift stores all over, buying old stuff. Like I bought Commodore 64s, VIC 20s, TI 99 4As, and sold them on eBay.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's pretty so you're a regular entrepreneur.
Anyway, I did that for a long time, and then just finally it started drying up. Everybody else in the world started doing the same thing.
And you told me that, somehow people managed to find you probably because of your website. And ask you for common, rare, obscure stuff.
Yeah, and mostly though from Sir Clive Alive, that newsletter.
Okay. Okay.
And
You
then
said you said Johnny had
I
a,
was,
go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say that, I'm sure most of you guys know the name Johnny Red from
Yeah.
Portugal.
He's here.
He and I, kind of worked together. We were sounding boards for each other, I guess you could say, when we were developing our websites and trying to get this and that, different things that we always coveted from the Timex thing. He gave me a lot of information about TMX Portugal.
Hmm.
And as a matter of fact, I had a 1510 cartridge player that he got and sent to me from Portugal. That's a big puddle of plastic now, but it's not funny, David.
Um,
I
I know. Yeah. When did you put your website up? Do you recall?
Oh
'Cause-
my, I really, I don't know. I could go to the website right now and see when it was last updated. It was like 98 or something when it was last updated, but
yeah.
when I did it, I don't remember. But one interesting thing, it's not very sophisticated, but I programmed the whole thing myself in HTML programming. I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but
Oh yeah. No, that was
I
how we did
didn't
it
have
back in the.
I didn't have a computer program to help me put it out. I wrote it all, the
Mhm.
whole thing.
Wrote the
Oh,
code.
you
Yeah.
mean just in a plain text editor is what you're talking about?
What's that?
You mean just in a plain text editor, like from scratch?
Well, it was HTML script. I
Sure.
bought a magazine that said, "Well, here's how to do it," and so I started doing it. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just not very sophisticated, but there's a lot of information there,
Yeah.
and it's still up. If you got the link to it, you can still go there.
Is it still on
And
the
everything,
Outlaw website?
no, it's uh, Germany.
Oh,
God dang it.
oh, somebody made a copy of it in Germany.
No, just a second.
I'm trying to remember where your site was, and it's been a while.
It's on World of Spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. Is this your site? I'm trying to
I'm
see.
looking at it right now while we're talking.
I'm gonna put it on the screen share. Here we go. Let me go back up to the top. Does that look familiar?
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And all this stuff that you did the digging for, and as you said, you worked with Johnny Red to, document a bunch of this stuff too, right?
Yeah. And
Okay.
all the stuff that's documented here, I had. Or yeah, I had. I can't say I have anymore.
Right.
I had.
Hmm.
You know, I got in a wagon outside my back door. There are two FDD 3000s that are just burned to a crisp.
Oh,
I couldn't even find the FDDs. They were just plastic, melted plastic or burned up plastic.
yeah.
All my twister boards are gone. Uh, I don't know.
Yeah. Uh,
Just to, I noticed at the bottom of that page, it said the site was created in 1999 and last updated in 2003.
oh,
Is that what it says?
yeah. Yeah. March 17th, 2003.
Oh
Look at
yeah.
that.
Okay. There you go.
Interesting. One of the things that you told me, I think in email, Jack, was that you somehow got a hold of a of an original of that press photo, with the 2068 and the bus
Oh yeah.
expansion unit. Where did you get that photo? Do you remember?
Rod Gowan, that photo right there.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to remember where it is linked on your website.
Rod Gowan gave it to me. It was in all the stuff from Rod.
Okay. Okay. I wonder if this is the picture. I'm clicking through the
And
link.
you know, I had a mock-up of the BEU down here,
Mm-hmm.
and I took that photograph and I measured everything and transferred it to a cardboard mock-up. No, I did.
Wow.
I still got the mock-up, but it's a little bit twisted and stuff because it's cardboard and it got smashed a little.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Very cool.
anyway,
Okay, so I have a question
Yeah.
about that photo.
Yep. Go ahead.
I'm so familiar with that photo. I just figured it was I thought the photo was very common. But David, you make it seem like at one point, like it wasn't common whatsoever because you
No,
asked where he got it.
what I think, and I don't know if this is correct or not, but I think people got it from my website and started using it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is it's a press photo.
I don't know if
and,
that's true or not, but
this is some kind of press photo from Timex, and I don't recall this ever being in magazines because I don't recall, seeing this photo before
no, it wasn't.
seeing it on the internet.
Oh, okay. I always understood. I mean, like I said, I'm quote new to this community. Like I always figured that like back in 1983, that got released. Everyone saw that, and everyone wanted everything in that photo. Like Carl talks about that photo.
Yeah.
Carl, I think, is here.
Yeah,
And
Carl's here.
I always thought Carl saw this back in the day. And Carl, when was the earliest part you saw this? Do you remember?
Okay, there I am. I'm unmuted. I think that picture, I think I saw that in the E. Arthur Brown
Oh,
catalog.
that's right.
That could be too, yeah.
That makes sense.
I think that's really where it came out because, I don't think this was really published before Timex, decided to close up shop.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think, I think the E. Arthur Brown was the ones that were saying, this is the Timex, what the hell did they call this picture? I don't know, the kind of the Holy Grail, but they didn't call it
Yeah.
Holy Grail. It's I can't remember what they called it, but
Yeah.
obviously it's everything that they wanted, the 2068 at least to be.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if you guys can see this.
Yeah.
Here's the catalog.
Oh, let me
picture.
spotlight that for you. There we go. Oh, let me stop sharing. Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, that's the catalog. I think that's the only pick. That's where I saw it from.
84.
And what did they call that? They called that what was the Advances of Big Future? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what they call the whole system. I know the 2068 plugged into the BEU.
Yeah.
Okay, now how do I make
84.
There we go.
Adam. That E. Arthur
And
Brown.
the two the 2060s, I guess. The BEU was a 2065. The little micro drives were 2060s. And I made I took two ZX micro drives, sanded the ZX off the top of them, and figured out the paint colors and then painted them up. But they're gone now too. I did find one micro drive. Like I said to David, I found a box of stuff in a closet, one of my downstairs closets, and it was supposed to have been in my garage that burned. And but anyway, there was a micro drive in it.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, Jack, I've actually done exactly that. I've made silver micro drives, but the Timex Sinclair. Actually, the micro drives were the 2065s, and the BEU was the 2060. So you kind of had a no big deal. But
and that printer that's in the picture that printer, not as a 2080, but it actually existed. I had one, and I just never did get it mocked up to be a 2080. I can't remember what it was now at the time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to know, because I mean, I've had a couple different. I've researched it a little bit, and I've had a couple different models, but when you look at them, they don't really look like that. They're not like
I
that. So I
had one that
mean,
looked exactly like that.
yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. I don't. All the people that have said what it is, when I look at them, look at those models, they don't look
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah, I
whatever
know.
you had would be nice. I mean, I don't know if you still have it or if it got.
Oh no, it's melted.
Okay, well, that's unfortunate, but
It is. I'm telling you, we lost a shitload of stuff. Sorry
Yeah.
for the language, but my God, it was devastating. I remember standing out watching it with my son, and he was crying. It's
Mm.
just like that's how devastating it was. Building was 48 feet wide, 32 feet deep, 18 feet at the peak high, had two lofts, so actually a loft and a half full of stuff. And it burned so hot. It scorched the side of my house.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like one
Anyway,
of the worst ways to lose stuff is by fire. I mean, there's also floods, right? There's hurricanes. That's not good either. But a fire, it's still there. It's just all melted.
oh yeah, I
Yeah.
I lost probably at least 6, maybe 8 2068s, all in boxes.
Mm.
I found 3, all just melted. I probably had 5 or 6 TS1000s. I found one, and it was, melted. The only thing that really came through was cassette tapes for some reason. And it's because they were just all bunched together in a box, and the ones in the middle were still okay. The ones on the outside were just melted. So, and I'll be sending them to David, and he's going to ask you guys, since I don't have a cassette player anymore, because all of mine melted, he's going to ask you guys to check them out, see if they work.
I'm really sorry to hear about your loss. I mean, it must be very
No,
traumatic.
don't think about it as mine. It was ours.
Yeah.
I was in the process of sending stuff to David, and but my back is so bad, I couldn't go. That was in the loft. You had to go up and down stairs, and I couldn't do it. I even went through David, said, "Hey, does anybody want to come out and help?" And I think he put out something about that. Anybody
Yeah, that
want
was
to
a
go
while
help
back.
Jack? And just like, you know, yeah, I didn't consider it mine. It's some of the stuff I bought myself, but still, I didn't consider it mine. I was like the storehouse for the world. And I'm seriously, people all over the world were sending me stuff. It's just crazy. I got stuff from Germany, stuff from Sweden, of course, stuff from America. It was crazy. The box would show up because my address was in Circle Live. The box would show up and there'd be a bunch of Timex stuff in it. It's just like, whoa. And
Yeah.
I was really proud that I was able to save it from the landfill. I'm just not proud at all that I got torched in the fire that we had.
Well, Jack, the 3 boxes that, or not, the 9 boxes that you've sent thus far have had all kinds of, crazy revelations in them. Let's put it that way. Lots of
Yeah.
lots of really amazing stuff. So
Well,
you have managed.
I went around. I'm sorry to interrupt. I went around finding books, Timex related books, And I don't know if I had them all, but my goodness, I had a couple of big boxes full of books. And, they just finished cleaning up. The demo company just finished cleaning up the site last Friday.
Wow.
And just to see, I mean, there's still pages blowing around of stuff. I don't want to get into that. It's too depressing.
Hey, Johnny, you there? I see you went off mute, but I can't hear you. Maybe you're.
Hey, David, if I
Yeah.
can interrupt again, that printer I sent you.
Yeah. I know
the
nothing about it.
Printer?
Yeah.
No, I don't either. But what I was going to suggest, I'm not sure any of these other guys do either.
I'm gonna
posting it someplace so you can see the pictures of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a bunch of stuff to take pictures of. I have so much stuff to take pictures of. But yeah, I'm gonna take pictures of it. And there's an English there's a forum focused on the 81. And if there's anybody that knows anything about this printer, it has to be the guys there. So I'm going to post some pictures over there and see if they know anything. And can you describe the printer,
It's badged
Jack?
as a Sinclair something 1000, DMX 1000.
Yeah.
But it's a clone of an Amstrad 4160.
It's probably a rebadged Amstrad. So Amstrad, after they bought Sinclair, rebadged a lot of things. They even sold a standard PC as the Sinclair. I can't remember, like 5,000, 1,500 something. I knew a guy in Ohio that had one. It was just a rebadged Amstrad PC running MS-DOS. So, because Amstrad bought the name, so they might have just rebadged a bunch of stuff.
They did, yes.
So if there was the original Amstrad and got rebadged with Sinclair, it's probably because they just put the Sinclair name on it to ship it out the door.
Yeah. I wonder who would have bought such a thing.
The only reason I know it was the Amstrad 4160 is by doing research on, because knowing what you just said, Tim, that Amstrad rebadged stuff, I looked at all the Amstrad sites and found it 4160. You just tell by the cover and everything else.
So quick look, the Sinclair that Amstrad rebadged was the PC 200 standard MS-DOS machine. I just had to know that was in Ohio that happened to have one. He was a Sinclair guy also. So
I had one of those. I also had a PC 500.
Okay.
Wow.
So
yeah, and that might be also something, because the interface 2, the expansion port on it, or I think one of the expansion ports, but anyway, I don't think it had an expansion port. It's actually, the back port says ZX printer. And I don't know if that was really meant for the ZX printer or maybe for this printer you guys are talking about.
Wasn't it the same on the interface 1? There was a place to plug a printer in the back.
The interface 1 just had a pass through, right? So it just passed through the Spectrum bus. But the interface 2, I think the back port, if I'm remembering right, it actually says ZX printer for that back port that's on the interface 2. I don't think the interface 2 actually had a pass through. I think they meant maybe to plug that into the interface 1. And because it had the cartridge port, it had the joystick ports, know, and I think on the back it had a ZX printer port. So I mean, it would have to be a parallel printer kind of ish. Well, not really, but I don't think it was a serial printer. So I don't know if this was a serial printer or was a some type of parallelish printer that used the data bus.
So doing a quick wiki search, it says, in addition, the pass-through expansion bus provided was striped, only allowing a ZX printer to be attached.
Right.
So it
Okay.
was the original ZX printer they're referring to.
Okay. Because I
Right.
know it says ZX printer on the back of the interface too, right? Above that port.
And I'm trusting Wiki, and that's correct.
Yeah, that's what that would have referred to, and makes sense that they only put through the necessary lines.
Well, I mean, the ZX printer, came out for the ZX81. Yeah, you can use it with the ZX Spectrum, but I don't know that many people did. I mean, I don't think it was a really popular printer. Maybe.
Wait, I thought
Because it
the
caught on fire. That's
Yeah.
why
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. And it was, use that the silver paper. I know Casio. My parents had a Casio printing calculator, and it used the same kind of the silver paper, and it, you could, when it was printing, you could see it burning,
Yeah.
burning the,
Mm.
and that's how the
Yeah.
ZX printer worked too. I remember, we had a guy here that had one, and I have one or two of them myself, but I haven't got them working. But yeah, when it went around, it would, it would spark. You'd see and you could smell it. You could smell that, ozone or whatever the hell it was making.
Yeah.
Mm.
Kind of a
So,
neat printer, but obviously the thermal, the 2040 was much faster because it printed a whole line at a time.
oh yeah, since we're talking about printers, there was another Timex printer. That's all it was called, Timex printer 2040.
Yeah.
It wasn't Timex Sinclair 2040. It was Timex printer 2040.
Oh, I wonder if
Well,
It might be
I had one. Go back to my website here.
okay. Did I lose your website? I think I did.
that might be something from Portugal,
There
maybe.
it is.
Johnny Red
Yeah,
might.
it was. There it is,
Yeah.
right there. Timex printer 2040.
Well, we can't see what's on your screen, but let me see if I can find it.
What's that?
Timex. We can't see what's on your
Oh.
screen.
Well, you did it before.
Yeah.
Hello?
I found exactly what you're looking at. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Timex printer looks like,
It's
so
the
yeah, that looks
same.
like a,
It's a 2040. It
Yeah.
just they just put a different badge on it is all.
Right.
Yeah,
But,
it does looks like the Alphacom.
Yeah,
is.
it's the same. It
yeah.
actually looks like the actual 2040 printer because the Alphacom's a little
It
different,
is.
but
It is the actual 2040 printer.
right. Yeah.
It had a different power supply from Portugal,
Oh,
because they were 220 over there.
Right.
But I plugged in the power supply from over here in the US, worked just fine.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because
So,
it just uses
it-
24 volts AC that goes into that one.
but instead of saying Timex Sinclair 2040,
Mhm.
it says Timex. And I had it complete in a box. And it's just like, oh, I don't care. It
Well,
just makes me crazy thinking about all the stuff that's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hear you.
Well, there was a
I
over on
had
load.
I had
Unload.
one of Eric Johnson sent me a 2068. He had two of them, and one of them that you could see him using on some magazine. It's clear cased.
Mhm.
He sent me one that's gone now.
Wow.
I don't know how many there were ever made like that, but Eric said he had two. He sent me one. There must.
Those are probably the only two I ever heard of. So
Well,
Yeah. Well.
Joe Williamson, who was one of the publishers of Some magazine, also did a printer interface. He called it the Footprint, and his advertising photos had that because it was a cartridge based thing. You put it in the cartridge slot. He used a clear 2068 in his advertising photos. I mean, he might have used Eric's, but he might have just managed to find one of his own as well. And I think,
Well, I would have to think that those probably were early. They were probably pre-production units because during the mold
Yep.
they were getting the mold right.
Yep.
And they usually make them transparent at that point so they can see, how things line up and stuff inside.
At the
Oh.
Cats Fest in '89, one of the gentlemen that had one of those brought it out and said that it was a marketing model designed to show off the inside of the computer when they're taking it out to, to show it off.
Oh, very
That
cool.
was I was told.
That makes sense
So I
too.
did see one then.
Wow.
I don't
I've
remember
usually
what, I think it
seen-
was in Florida.
Yeah, I usually seen them do transparent molds, like I said, when they're getting everything, pre-production lined up and everything. And once they get everything set, then they make it whatever color, they want. They don't want to make them transparent for the public.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Well, Jack, I have a question about your website. So your last update was 21 years ago. So you were really into it for 4 years, and you seem to have kept your stuff for so long. How come you stopped updating your website?
Because it's like I said early in this meeting, I wrote the whole thing in HTML code.
Mhm.
And after a while, you go in and update it. It's a lot of work because you
And then
gotta
they,
write the code, publish it, and say, "Oh, I misspelled that," and then you go back and redo it. And I just got burned out.
Yeah, I get you. That's how I still do my website. I still do it that way.
Yeah, because I know I used to kind of do it that way too. And you're right. Updating is the bitch because then all the links have to
Oh
relink,
yeah.
right? And you had to do all that by hand. And so that's
Oh,
when I
yeah.
started to use like Front Page. If you guys remember Front Page before Microsoft bought it, Front Page was a great, web development program for, to make that easier, right? So it would keep track of all that crap for you. Anyway,
Actually,
Yeah.
speaking of Front Page, when I was actually working with an organization using Front Page, we were calling them to get more information, some help, and everything. They're like, we're on the phone. Okay, guys, we can't talk to you right now. We'll have to call you back soon. And then the next day, we heard they got bought out by Microsoft.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But anyway,
Yeah.
it wasn't long after that. I don't remember what year it was that I was talking with Martin on World of Spectrum, and he offered to host it. Oh, I was losing OutLawNet. I couldn't host it there anymore.
Mhm.
And so Martin, can't remember his last name. He offered to host it on World of Spectrum, so I took him up on that.
Well, I'll tell you, I found it incredibly, invaluable when I started building my site. It was like a excellent resource for me, just being able to find all that stuff, right? And then, having a sort of checklist of things to track down and newsletters to find. I spent, like you, Jack, years, haunting
Oh.
eBay for newsletter auctions.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it just I didn't build as big a collection as you did, but I have many boxes in my attic.
Yeah, my goal originally when I first started it out, if you go through it, you'll see just the first cover page on newsletter or a magazine. My goal was to scan them all and have the whole thing there. But like I said, I just burned out, and I'm still burned out,
Oh, I remember what they called that picture. The Timex Dream. That's what it was.
That's what I called it. It's
Okay,
on my
well,
website. It's on
yeah.
my website.
Okay, well that's where I got that from. The Timex Dream. Yeah, that's right.
And then the Promise. There's also the Promise, and that's Time Designs had a 2-issue article. I mean, it was one article, but it was part 1 was in one issue, part 2 in another, and they went through everything that happened at that time when Timex went out of the business.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Crazy.
And just so you know, all the stuff that's on that website, I actually had and scanned and all the interfaces. You look at the Larkin stuff, I had 4 different, actually more than that, but 4 main cartridge boards from Larkin. One for Larkin, one for Oliger, one for Airco, and one for Ramex.
Oh, wow.
And there's pictures of all of them on my website there.
Hey, Rich, I'm going to spotlight you because it looks like you might be trying to show us something. Uh,
Oh,
Something from Jack.
that's
Oh.
my oh yeah. What did I send you? I don't remember.
A book.
I remember meeting you in what was it, just out of San Francisco when they had Timex. What the heck was it? I guess you could call it a show, huh?
Was it one of those Timex meetings? Oh, it's Hasword too. I'm gonna
You're probably talking about the 1999
I
show.
remember that. I do. Yeah, somebody put together a show there. Just I can't remember.
Wow, look at that
I
test
can't
copy.
remember the name of the show, but people came from England. I think you were there, Tim. Weren't you there?
I organized it.
Yeah. Okay.
Somewhere I've got a picture of myself, Simon Goodwin, and Tony Firschman in a hot tub.
Oh, yeah.
That probably can't be posted anywhere, right?
We had bathing suits on. Actually, it's the one just outside here. You just look outside my back door. We just got it installed not too long before the meeting happened. So,
What
and then
year?
Simon Goodwin stayed here for 3 or 4 days when he was here. He and his girlfriend / wife. They weren't really technically married, so.
What year was that, Tim?
I think it was 1999.
Okay. And that was in California, right? Near you.
Yeah. So basically, what Simon did was he bought a ticket to make this cheap. He bought a ticket from London to San Francisco with a long layover in New Jersey because there was an East Coast show. So he had an indefinite layover in New Jersey, went to that show, then caught the rest of his flight to San Francisco, came out for this show, and then went back all in one hop, I believe.
Wow. Oh, that's crazy.
I think the most interesting person we had at that meeting was still Stan Kelly Boodle, who was known for having the first degree in computer science.
Oh, wow. Okay. And you said he also wrote some book. I can't remember what the book was.
DP Dictionary.
Yeah.
Most well known for DP Devil's Dictionary. He wrote columns. He wrote a rather thick Linux books that he brought and gave me a copy and signed it for me, which I still have in the garage somewhere. But Simon Goodwin was really impressed because he knew of Stan. Stan was British, knew of Stan. It was just, he basically monopolized Stan's time. So
cool. Well,
Timothy, didn't you have a bunch of people over to your place for like dinner or something? Seems like I was over at your house one night.
probably we did have a barbecue at my place after that show.
Yeah.
Or before it. I think we went to dinner after the show at one place, and the Germans went, "This doesn't smell good. We're going to go somewhere else." They went somewhere else. They also said, "Oh, senior meal must be small portions." Because no, senior meal means just cheaper price, because they got their meal and go, "That's just way too big." But I think I had a barbecue the night before, the night after, one of the two.
Yeah, that's when I was over there. Yeah.
It's like old home week, huh? I want to see if Johnny can get himself on the mic. Is your audio working? Do you think, Johnny?
I believe so.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack, we have Johnny Red.
Hello. What
Jack,
do
can
you
you-
need?
Jack, do you remember working with Johnny Red, right?
Yeah.
This is him. He joins us almost all the time. Even though it's what, 2 a.m. in Portugal?
There you are. Yeah.
3 a.m.
3
You,
a.m.
you
Oh my
got
God.
older, Johnny.
I think we've all gotten
That's
older, Jack.
dedication, man. That's dedication.
That is
But I keep missing the meetings in European time. The second meeting.
But we created that
This
meeting
is the
just for
first
you.
time I've been here.
Yeah, but I don't know why I keep missing it.
Hey, I want to thank you for sending me the 1510 that you sent me.
I believe I sent you two.
No, just
One
one
in
of
the
those,
original
but you
box.
sent me some other stuff too.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
believe
remember.
I've sent you two. I sent you two
Uh-huh.
units. I believe I've
Yeah.
sent you two units. One in the original box and one in the white box.
That could be, yeah. But they're all gone now.
It's all right, Jack. I've got one in the original box. I don't think it's ever been used, and then I've got another one too that wasn't in a box, but
So
And-
yeah, well, I had all 4 cartridges too.
Oh,
Oh, nice. That was nice.
Oh, here's one I sent. Let me show you just a second.
okay.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear
Yeah, that
Lord.
looks like a cartridge, all right. Or was. Yeah.
It was,
Flight
yeah.
simulator.
And I found another one that had about this much of it showing.
Mm. Mm.
This
Looks-
is Flight
looks-
Simulator. The other one was States and Capitals. But I didn't find any 2068 cartridges. Just the two for the 1500, 1000. So go figure, you know.
yeah. I don't have 4 of them. I got Flight Simulator, which was that's the holy grail, I think. And then I think I got States and Capitals. But I mean, somebody dumped the ROMs for all, they're all dumped now. So
Well,
least we
I
have
didn't get
that.
them all. I didn't get them all in one place. Like I
Right.
said, people from all over were sending me stuff, and I'd open the box, and I'll be goddamned that one of these wasn't in a box. From somebody, I can't remember who, but I ended up with all 4 of those.
Mhm.
And I actually had another one I sent to Glenn Goodwin down in Florida.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
Because I had a bare 1510, just the board from inside. I sent that to Glenn too. So
Yeah, I keep trying to get Glenn to join the meetings, but he's got other things to do, I guess. He's got better things to do with his time. Yeah. Hey, Carl, have you been had any new adventures on your projects?
Not too much lately. Like I said, I did find, I'm cleaning up the room in here to do some
That's
shelving and some
right.
stuff. And I did find, some Timex stuff, the folder with all my diagnostic stuff in it. I found my original, 2068 technical manual that I had from back in the day, which has the schematics in it like you have. It's the big, huge blueprint style.
Yeah.
Actually it's right here. This is the, the original my original Timex 26. I don't know where the heck I got this. I think I probably got it from Art. But yeah,
And
it's
then,
got these huge schematics in it, you know.
right,
Yeah.
Time Designs came out with an updated one of those. Have you got that?
Yes, they did. They did come out with an update. Yeah, one that they, I think they, fixed typing and stuff like that. I mean, there's also other schematics in here. I don't know. This is a 1000 schematic, which is a huge one as well. And I think I can see that I've gone over it with pencil, and because it was kind of hard to read, but I redid this whole schematic with pencil. And I don't know what else. There's a
Yeah.
couple
Well,
other schematics. Anyway,
as I understand it, the one you have there in your hand had a couple of errors in it that
right.
Time Designs fixed.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I actually have some of my well, I scanned these too, so they're in the scans that I posted. But these are the test sheets that I had when we were testing the computers. So you could check off, what was good, what was bad, the date, the serial numbers, all that kind of stuff. So I still have a few copies of that.
Oh wow.
And I'd fold them up and put them into the cartridge slot once we were done, so you could look at that,
Hey, Carl, maybe since you just did those scans, and like posted on this past week, you could talk about what the heck you scanned and what you guys used to do back in the 1980s. I know you've talked about that a few times, but since you found all this information and the source code and you scanned it and uploaded it, and I was taking a quick brief look at it, why don't you tell us what you found and maybe where people can find it if they're not members of the group?
Yeah, well, it's I think on a Dropbox, right? I think I put it in a Dropbox 'cause I tried to post it to the groups IO, but then it never sent an email out to all of you.
That's too
I
big,
never got an
maybe.
email, right? So yeah, I think it was too big. So I was like, okay, well, it would show up on groups IO. You could see it there, but
Mhm.
it didn't send an email out to everybody to see it. So you wouldn't even know it was posted unless you check groups IO, regularly. But anyway, so yeah, I just posted them up to Dropbox, and the links are in the group IO thread, right? So and I just opened it up for everybody to be able to download it. You can't change it. Sorry, guys, you can't change it if you want to, but you can download it. You can change your downloaded version if you really feel inclined. But
Carl,
the big thing. Go ahead.
are you okay if I download those and upload them to archive.org?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't think
Okay.
there's anything. I don't think my address is, well, it would be my parents' address at this point in time, but
Yeah, nobody's
I
gonna
didn't
write you
think I
letters.
saw anything in there. Yeah. But that's a time capsule for me because I was very, very busy doing that for art, and that was my senior year in high school. I was doing Z8 or I was in a special class that the instructor made just for me. It was called Individualized Studies that we had here in what we place called CRC, which is a Career Enrichment Center, which was the first 3 hours of the day for high school. You would go to this class, right? The sophomore year, I took electronics. They had electronics there, which was great. Junior year, I took assembly language programming on the IBM PC. And then I did so well with that like I said, the instructor made us individualized studies class for my senior year. And what he wanted me to do was to break commercial software, to break the copy protection.
Learn the copy
And
protection.
because what's that?
He wanted you to learn the copy protection.
Well, learn the copy protection. Right. And learn how to circumvent it. And, a lot of that involved pretty much machine language, right? You had to really know machine language to step through the program, figure out where it's doing, what it's doing, how it's doing it. Anyway, so yeah, I really consider that time, I was on the top of my game as far as assembly. Not only for the 8088, for the IBM, but and that's probably why that 8080 thing in there, Adam, you commented about,
I know what you're
might
talking
have
about.
been in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. but you know, a lot of the Z80
What I just want to say, what Carl's
mnemonics.
referencing there is, so I guess still going to give a little bit more background about what Carl did here, because it's
Okay.
probably a little bit confusing for people who aren't following along. So back in the 1980s, Carl wrote a cartridge because one of this guy named Art that he worked with got all these computers from Timex, and they were seconds or something and had issues, and Carl wrote a cartridge that was able to go through and test them all. And he finally found a source code, not an EEPROM though. So the cartridge isn't
Yeah.
dumped, but Carl said this week he's going to retype it all in, right, Carl? But what I found interesting, I found a lot of it interesting, but I thought maybe because I hadn't looked at the source code yet, I thought maybe it was written in 8080 because there was a 8080 reference like booklet in there that Carl had scanned, but it was written in Z80. So
yeah, and I think a lot of the mnemonics are different, but the instructions are the same. I think some of them in the Z80 actually map to the 8080, but of course the 8080 mnemonics are totally different, right? They have different mnemonics. Zilog created their own mnemonics, so
That was
but it
for
was
legal reasons.
yeah, probably, and but it was very interesting going through that and seeing that, you know, it's not just source code. There is printouts, right? Which obviously doesn't have a lot of comments. I don't think Hot Z, which was an assembly language, the assembler, debugger, disassembler that I was using from Ray Kingsley here, didn't really have room for comments, right? So you don't see that in the printouts. Where you see the comments is in my handwritten notes that I, right? My handwritten source code, which has all pretty much my thing back then was every line had to have a comment, right? I mean, even if it was just a continuation of the previous line, you would just kind of dot, you know, ellipsis. So, but like I said, I really tried to comment the code. So that's, it's going to help me now if I do decide to, you know, pull that all together, because I was looking at it and I'm kind of, to be honest, overwhelmed. It's kind of all over the place because I don't know exactly where, you know, obviously I wrote it in RAM to run in RAM, and then we kind of made all the code fit into, you know, looking at the code, it's an LROS, right? So it's actually takes over the Timex system, which was like, I'm like, wow, I didn't think I did that, but I think I might have copied the tape routines or maybe some of them. You know, I don't think I wrote the tape routines over, but because it does test the tape and it writes something like 10 times in a row, but you don't have to, you know, type anything in. You just hit the tape test and it does everything automatically, verifies automatically. And then that's kind of why you have the paper there to say, you know, hey, it passed or failed. Another big part of that was the SCLD testing, which Art had, you know, the schematics and the internal schematics for that in a blueprint, you know, big schematic, like the big schematics that we have for the 2068 and the 1000, the same thing they had for the SCLD, but that was obviously proprietary. And I think, you know, him and I think some kind of NDA was signed at the time. But anyway, I had in-depth knowledge and circuit diagrams of how they, you know, how the inside of the SLD was made. So I could build my tests around that, you know, otherwise you wouldn't really know. I mean, you can kind of guess, but, and then there's some SCLD reverse engineering now, right? So, I mean, that might be more insightful, but we didn't have that back then. But what else did it do? You know, like bank switching, it would test. Well, you know, it really didn't test bank switching too much. As far as I guess you could go with, you know, just the 2068, because Art was using these things or had planned to use these things in his 3-axis milling machine, right? It was the brains for that machine, and it was one reason, you know, it was going to be a low cost machine because, you know, 2068s he got pretty, you know, I don't know what he paid for all that stuff, but yeah, there were like supposedly customer returns and, you know, a return, just normal returns, right? And as I recall, you know, most of the machines tested okay. You know, there weren't really anything wrong with them. But then, of course, there were a small percentage of the machines that did have issues. And but this diagnostic cartridge, I don't really know how long it took me to do it, but looking at the dates and stuff, it looks like I might have started working on it probably early to mid 85, and then I think we finally wrapped it up pretty much by the end of 85. So probably a
Yeah, I
good
think the date you have
6
a
to
date
8
of
months.
November or December on there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but there's some early source code and stuff like that. You'll see the dates. I think maybe even April or May, when I was first starting it out. So, but I was going to
It's
school.
kind of amazing to me that you wrote that when you were a senior in high school, because you've like made actual documentation, and it's very good. Like it's super
Yeah.
impressive, Carl. Like
Yeah. Well,
like when I was 17 years old, that would not have been something that I could have even have thought of doing. So it's just crazy.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, I guess. But I was a big documentation freak, and like I said, you met John Brown, and John, I scanned in a bunch of his stuff, earlier in the year. And so we were, he really wasn't working with me on this cartridge, but we definitely knew each other at that time, and but it was just, I don't really know too much else to say with it, but if you download it and start looking at it, I mean, looking back on it, yeah, it's an impressive amount of documentation for that, for sure. And I think we can get it back up and running. That's kind of what I'm hoping at some point, but it's not going to be as easy because it's just that's 35 years ago or almost 40 years ago now, and I've forgotten more than I've remember.
Well, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Carl, I'm going to bring up something here, which I was hoping to bring up in a meeting, and I think this would be a great place to do it because it might be useful for what you want to do. So David has sort of been paying attention a little bit on the AstroK group that I've been using ChatGPT to scan in some source code, basic programs, and it's worked okay. And I was told to do this because it works pretty good. And I was like, yeah, right, whatever. It's just, you can just do OCR. And OCR actually works better when you first start, but once you start having like a conversation with ChatGPT, it gets better and better and better. And I tried some today, and basically, I wouldn't say it was error-free, but it was so close to being error-free. I was kind of shocked. So it might be something you want to try, Carl, to take some of your source code and just start plugging, have ChatGPT start with it and see what it does. Because at first you're going to get like results, you're like, this sucks. And before too long, you're going to get results that you're going to realize run.
Yeah, it's kind of looking at the source code is trying to see where everything is chronologically the right word? How all the code starts fitting together.
Yeah.
Right? I can see where it begins because I can see the header bytes for the cartridge, the LROS, right? It explains it right there. These are the LROS. This is the juncture enable. This is, so that's obviously 0000, right? That's the first thing where it starts the cartridge. And then what kind of comes after that? And in my mind, it would have to be the menu system, right? Because it has to print out the screen, right? So you'd be able to select these things. And then I think, I think each, like number one would be the first code, right? Selection 2 would be under 1, but it may not be that way. I'm pretty sure it is that way, but it's just looking at the source code. Some of it is like in higher RAM, right? And then others is actually like where it would have been in the EEPROM. So it's kind of like, having to mash all that together.
Well, luckily it isn't just the source code. It's like a listing. So it tells you the address that each address is at, if that makes sense.
Right. And the other thing that I used heavily in Hot Z was labels. Right.
Yes,
so that kind of convolutes things a little bit because I'll have a label. So you don't really, but the cool thing with the printouts is you'll see the label right on the mnemonic, but when you look at the actual opcodes, you'll get the address, right? You can see the address it's going to there. So that's kind of nice with the printouts, and I think the printouts probably OCR'd pretty well.
Yeah. The thing about the printouts, though, Carl, is most of them have handwritten like notes on them. which
Mhm.
will cause problems.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're going to go through and fix all that too. So.
Well, I mean, those files that I uploaded are OCR'd.
Oh,
Well,
are they? I did
so
not realize that.
yeah, so you should be able to search them, right? They're searchable PDFs.
Oh,
So, with and I use an older version of Acrobat that I got from HP at the time, but I scan them in as JPEGs and I let my computer OCR them, because this HP scanner can OCR them too on the fly, but the computer's much faster than this thing.
Yeah.
But
Something
anyway.
I haven't really messed around with too much, but I did try with ChatGPT is having it OCR handwritten documentation, and it actually kind of works. Like how I don't know, but it I threw some stuff to it and it kind of worked.
Handwriting recognition at this point in time is getting pretty good.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's getting pretty, because my phone, you can write things on the screen, because I've got the one that's got the stylus that comes with it, so you can just write notes really quickly on there, and you can turn it into text, and it does a pretty damn good job of my chicken scratch. So like I said, I think even transcribing things, I think these days is pretty damn good. Where you go 10, 20 years ago, it was horrible.
When you say
Obviously,
transcribing,
Carl's
you mean
never seen my
dictation?
handwriting.
Well, that's why you use AI, and then you just train it. Train it, and then once it learns your handwriting, it'll know.
That's
Then
why
it gets rid of you, and you're out of there.
a lot of that handwriting recognition.
But yeah, guys, if you okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say a lot of the handwriting recognition research and work behind it comes out of work for the post office for recognizing handwritten envelopes at high speed. Reading it and then putting that little barcode that you sometimes see on the bottom of an envelope. Yeah,
right.
That's where a lot of that research comes from.
Yeah, it's impressive how good it's gotten, these days. So, but my main thing was to get those 2040 printouts scanned in, because luckily they're in this folder, and the folder's never opened, right? And it's kind of packed with other papers, so that doesn't really get a lot of air in there. So they've been preserved pretty well to me. I think they're very well preserved. I've seen a lot of 2040 printouts, they're so faded. I mean, you have to hold them at the light and get the reflection of where the actual thermal, dots were to actually kind of see what was there. But these are, very good. So I'm happy that they're good like that. But I still, they need to be scanned in for posterity. Because something horrible could happen, like with Jack. I mean, you never know. You never know. You could lose this stuff. You could have a flood. I think a lot of people are going to start moving to New Mexico and Colorado and the western part of the country, because God bless America, the east part of the country, well, the central and the east is just getting hammered this year with storms and tornadoes, and it's just horrible. And so
I thought you were going to say so they could join the Timex user group here, but
no. But you were on the other side of the Rockies, so we don't seem to get that kind of tornadoes here. That's almost impossible. Not impossible, but very, very rare, right? And
you just get heat.
Yeah, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but and it's kind of a deserty out here, but I mean, what would you rather have? Tornadoes 3 times a year and have to rebuild your house, or have to deal with some hot weather in the summer and you can live in the same house for 30 years,
For me, neither.
Right. But
we're still against an earthquake.
That's true. Someday, yeah, Colorado or California is going to be it's going to not get knocked off and be an island out floating in in the Pacific.
Slide into the ocean.
David, we have about 40 minutes left. I was wondering if there's anyone else who was supposed to speak tonight.
Well, Tim and I exchanged an email about the ZXzine, and Tim, one of the things that we share, both have an interest in, is people's personal histories. And one of the things that Tim mentioned in his email was maybe we can get folks to write a little bit about themselves for the zine. Tim, do you want to expand on that a little bit? Did I cover?
Yeah, I mean, so with this issue, we've got plenty of pages to fill. You know, we as many as we want. So I know Adam and myself and others have been interested in how people use their computers over the years. It doesn't have anything recent. So anybody can write 3 paragraphs, 2 pages. We don't really care on either what they did with their computer early on, and maybe what they're doing now. So it could be a little bit of both. I mean, I'm still currently tinkering, but I did tinkering years ago. I do tinkering now. So most of my stuff I've written about, so people know about what I've been doing. But if somebody out there wants to write something, just to let us know what you guys, any project working on, project you used to work on, even from 30 years ago, I'm like, gee, I really like this program I really liked, and something like that would be useful.
Yeah.
And David's going to twist his arm on some Pascal programs, but he's not here. Mr. Sully.
We can email him directly and remind him. And we'll send out a little note about this on the groups.io list, and I'll post over on some of the Facebook groups to see if folks can weigh in, because it's nice to have a physical thing in your hand, and
Yep.
that's the goal for this year.
And if you also, we'll take articles from us. Anything if you got some of the project you're working on and you're interested in talking about it, project in the middle of working on, that's all fine. Take text as any sort of version of text, images, JPEGs, PNGs, whatever we'll take. Source code we'll take, and that usually goes into a zip file that goes along with the document. And it can be color.
One kind of idea is, Jack was kind of mentioning the 1510, and I don't know. I know for me, the 1510 was kind of a rare thing, right? I mean, it was cheap as hell. It was only $20 when the Timex came out with it. But I mean, hardly anybody had one, and so, and probably nobody really cared, to have one. Why do I want to put cartridges on this black and white, doorstop of a computer? But now, it seems to have gotten a little bit more interesting for folks. And, like I said, kind of with the 1510 clone project that, I kind of went through, and, a lot of people got a hold of. I still need to get Adam and Ryan theirs. I mean, Jesus, it's been, not that they'll probably ever use it, I guess, but, hopefully they will. I know Ryan's I still got to go through some software that he's converted. That's the other thing, Jack. Sorry. We're actually starting to make more programs available for the 1510, right? Stuff like 3D Monster Maze, and some of these programs that you don't really want to load by cassette. But then again, there's what Mazogs is another one. Mazogs
that's an awesome program, I thought.
Yeah, Mazogs, we made that into a cartridge. So there are 4 games on one chip, right? So you can have 4, and you use a dip switch to pick which one you want. But anyway, so it's kind of a little bit of a revitalizing of that product, and some nostalgia, talking about having something physical in your hands, and maybe talking. I don't know if I want to write an article per se, because I know I've written a lot about it on the groups.io. Kind of the progression of how I was doing it, where it came from. Superflow originally made one, I guess, and then Claudius got a hold of it in 2020 and made kind of a different cartridge of it. The interface was still the same, but he made a newer version of the cartridge. And then I know that Joe asked for the files, right? And I know I sent him the files for that, because there's some problems, right? There's some little issues that we could kind of get resolved. And then we also learned that the interface that Superflow did, he reversed the address lines to the logic in there. And you wouldn't think that's a big deal, and it still works. but it doesn't work for Flight Simulator, right? Because nobody had ever, we didn't have a ROM for Flight Simulator, and Flight Simulator is the only cartridge that uses two 8K chips in it. All the other ones are just single 8K chips, right? So that's why it would work for the other three cartridges, but for Flight Simulator, I guess nobody had one to test it on Superflow's design. It wouldn't have worked. He doesn't have the logic to go and select the second 8K chip, right? So we got all that figured out. And it's kind of cool with that because Timex never published any kind of technical documentation that I think we've ever found, or maybe there's some that, they're still finding maybe over in Portugal, because I would imagine they had something to do with that 1510, right, David?
I think so.
Because they had a lot to do with the 1500, right? Yeah. Which kind of was in the same time frame of design as I think the 1510 was going through. So there may be stuff that's over in Portugal that lays some more information. And the other thing too is how to make cartridges for that, because there's nothing published. And Ryan's really spearheaded trying to figure out all the different things that programs, that were made for cassettes, how do you get that onto a ROM? Because the 1510, right, as we all know now, it just copies, right, the program into RAM and runs it. It doesn't run it from the cartridge like, you typically would think a cartridge would be, right? You would run the software from the cartridge. No, the cartridge is just a storage medium to copy it into the RAM of the 1000, and then it executes it in the RAM. But there's a bunch of, different ways to do that apparently that we kind of really didn't know, right? Because nobody's really progressed it to try to make new cartridges, other than what the ones Timex did. So now we're learning a little bit more about that here 40 years later, right? And that
so
may
Carl,
be
not everyone that reads ZXzine is actually on our Sinclair mailing list.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
There's a whole chunk out there that don't. So a nice summary article might not be a bad idea. And if Ryan wants to write a summary article on how to convert basic programs over to use on that ROM cartridge, that'd be good also. I don't know if there's enough interest in, because I mean, the 1510 will work on the ZX81. Yep. I don't know if there's interest in Europe about doing something similar. There might be. So if you had like a diagram or something that's, hey, here's how to build your own, we could always put it as part of the attachment that the people can then download and try and build their own in Europe and see how it works with the ZX81.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of why I mentioned Joe, because like I said, I'm not up on my KeyCAD, I'm not up on my EDA, to actually change the, the PCB layout, because there's some issues there. Obviously, we need to switch the address lines. It's nothing really, I think, that difficult, but, and then of course, I still have in my mind, I want to take it further and make one so that we can actually make ROMs, right? We can make, replace the OS, like, with a fourth ROM, or, kind of like the LROS does for the 2068, right? Which I think Timex probably had that in mind, because I don't know why they would run the ROM chip select line actually to the cartridge port.
Oh.
Not just to the expansion bus, it actually goes to the cartridge. So if the cartridge, if the cartridge wanted to use it, right, and enable ROS, ROM chip select, it could actually, turn the ROM off in the 1000. But I did some research on there, and there's some idiosyncrasies with that. So I don't know, but I think Timex was probably looking at doing something like that down the road, another dream. But
if you write something about that, even as a this is what's possible, it could always spur somebody in Europe to go, oh, that looks interesting. And next thing you know, we've got somebody out of Europe who's done something with it.
Yeah.
So you never know what you're gonna spark when you write something.
True.
Yeah.
And I don't know where Superflow is based. I thought Superflow was based here in the US.
Yeah, he's out in California.
But he was the first one, I think, to really kind of reverse engineer the 1510. But Claudius, he's over in Netherlands or England. I can't remember where Claudius is at.
Originally from Poland,
England.
I think.
But okay. but those guys there kind of, did more with it, right? Nobody here in the States really, other than Superflow, it kind of was like, who cares, I guess. I don't know, but now I think there's a little bit more interest in it, and even though there are such things as ZX Expand, where it kind of makes it irrelevant anyway, because with that you can run, you can load SD card with every Timex Sinclair 1000 ZX81 program and still have room to spare, probably, right?
But I have seen in the retro world where if you make hardware, people want to buy it, no matter what it is, almost.
Yeah. And so, that's
a good history article on this process. You mentioned Superflow and Claudius. Don't know who they are. So maybe that's your in, is to write a little history about how this all happened, what people have been out there.
Well, I think that's getting something, like you say, a summary there to get. Yes, it's on the list in various pieces, but to get sort of a definitive summary of, okay, here's what we found out. Here's how the 16K ones really work, and that kind of thing, and in some sort of publication would be good.
Okay. Yeah, so the next version should be hard copy out to everyone, and also electronic, so people in Europe can. I doubt they'll want hard copy, but who knows? We'll have to figure out also what costs are going to be in the hard copy. We do have money sitting around in our treasures for doing this sort of thing, so we could just say, hey, for the first 30 people or 50, whatever, that's free. I don't know. We'll have to work that all out. Yeah.
So Carl,
okay, maybe just do by shipping or something.
You mentioned the Don Superfo. Did this reverse engineering of the 1510 and the cartridge, and for folks who are more familiar with the Spectrum side of the world, he's really well known for his Harlequin ZX Spectrum clone boards that he's done a whole ton of, and that's really where a lot of his effort is these days. And the reason that I'm saying all this is because Don purchased a Pico Video and built a reverse twister, if you will, from the 2068 bus to the Spectrum, and hooked his hooked one of his Harlequin boards up to this thing. Oh shoot!
Well, it's about time that happened.
It's about time somebody did something useful, right?
No, it's about time somebody took a 2068 product and made it work with the Spectrum.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Reverse twister. Exactly.
Shoot, I lost my window. I have, okay, let's see if I can get this to play in some way. So anyway, he posted this video, which looks like I'm not going to be able to share unless it's that. All right.
Yeah, send the link.
Yeah, I'll definitely send the link.
Yeah, your picture just of you is super glitchy, so
okay,
if you share a video,
anyway,
I'm sure it probably won't
he
work
posted
so
this
well.
really cool video on Facebook of, I think, a Spectrum demo running, and the colors and what it could do was astounding, and it was all running through the Pico Video. And there's some, his question was, could it be made to work with the Spectrum 128, which has two banks of RAM for video? And so I shared it. I pointed him to the GitHub, because this is an open source project, and to Tim's point, hopefully the folks in Europe will pick it up and make it work for their things, and maybe somebody in Europe will pick up the manufacturing for Europeans. Not me.
Could we get him to write an article about what he did with the Spectrum and the TS Pico?
Well, it's just
that might also
really it's just a twister. There's nothing unfortunate. And Don
it's
is
still the idea that, I mean, he could just and whoever's writing the TSPICA article can always add it as an addendum, like, oh, by the way, this other
Exactly.
person did this.
Yeah.
It's a twister board. It's something simple, but it allows the TSPICA to work on the spectrum. And there's a lot of people out there with spectrums.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for
And that's
folks,
probably
selling more.
for folks who have, the original spectrums, which don't have, any kind of easy video output, this does, give them an option. And, that's cool because Jeff, designed this thing to scratch, solve a problem for us. And, it can be adapted to solve problems for other people, which is just absolutely perfect.
Well, it's just lucky that Timex kept the the video
Memory.
section of
Yeah.
the 2068 the same thing as the Spectrum, right? They didn't change a lot of that,
Yeah.
so that you could you could scrape the Spectrum RAM as well to get the video information.
Yeah.
But that's really crazy that they actually made a reverse twister board. I mean, I don't think who would ever think that would happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's
When
got
they make a product that they're going to want, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's got folks.
Well, it's just kind of strange, the 2068 is always kind of the redheaded stepchild, right? And of the Spectrum, ZX Spectrum world. And now, here we are actually adapting something made for the 2068 for the Spectrum, which obviously is a much larger market.
Yeah. Yeah. The mothership.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
What do you think about, we get the cases for the cartridges? I guess, what do you say? There's 4 programs each, I think you said, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, on the current one, I'd like to get a bigger flash chip. You can have 8, 16, whatever, but yeah, go on.
Well, but then I think there's diminishing returns there. As that goes to infinity, it's not as fun. But
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's true.
But at least 4, I could see, like on the cartridge, you'd have a little space for a decal, and then you could print the box art for the program if you have it.
Yeah.
Be kind of fun.
I haven't really looked, but I think somebody's made a Thingiverse or a 3D rendering, right, of the cartridge. Isn't that right, Dave? I think somebody.
That actually started out as a cartridge for the Timex computer 2068, the Portuguese one, which has a higher clearance. And Joe, who's here, he reworked it so that it fits within the 2068. And I have a circuit board that's going to fit inside there. And similar to what you've done, Carl, with the dip switches, Joe found a nice rotary switch that outputs, that works in the same way. And it's an 8-position rotary switch. So the raw EEPROM chip in it will hold 8 16K images. So that'll work in the 2060. But it might not be too difficult to do a 1510 cartridge, because they were very similar.
Yeah, well, I think
size.
I think the cartridge casings itself are identical.
I think
There's
they're
no
very
difference
close.
between
Yeah.
a 2068
Yeah.
cartridge. Right. The only thing that's different is the keyway on the PCB.
Yep.
So you can't plug it into one or the other. That's where the difference is. But the casing, the physical casing, is identical, other than the color. Right. The colors for the 1000 were kind of tannish, brownish. I don't know what the hell that color was. But so that's what I mean. If we could, if Joe has that made, that's great. I don't know if you have some.
I do.
But I mean that really doesn't. Okay.
And also, you know what?
But I guess we'd have to make a PCB.
Well, yeah. You know what? I will send you. I will send you one of the cartridges because I got a bunch of them resin printed. I'll send you one of the cartridges and one of the 2068 PCBs so you can, look at the dimensions and see how it fits in. It fits really nice.
You can have this one too.
Well, that one certainly is unique. It is unique.
But yeah, Carl,
And it looks like a transporter.
And the interesting thing about this one, I found it laying on the ground about 20 feet behind the building. And the only way I figured it got there was when the firefighters were squirting water and they blew it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'd have to, well, I mean, this would kind of, I mean, maybe if I get my KiCad foo up to par, but we'd have to make another PCB, right, Joe, that would fit into that cartridge. Use that rotary switch. You'd obviously have to make a little hole on the top of the cartridge so you could access it. But with surface mount parts, it's going to be easy.
Yep.
It's easy to get flash chips and SMD parts these days. It's kind of actually harder to get them in through pin through hole. But anyway, that would just be something to think about. Not that a lot of people have 1510s, but you could actually have a cartridge that you could put into this clone, right, that we made. And instead of just this PCB that kind of sticks out. And I think, Joe, you were thinking maybe actually making a 3D case for the interface portion too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
I couldn't get those files that you sent me to work with TiCAD, so that's kind of where I hit a stumbling block.
Okay. Well, I'll see what I can do because I know I got mine into KiCad. And I know the ones from Claudius, he uses, those are like EDA files or whatever David uses for. Yeah. And so that's where I was kind of running into, I think you can like convert them into KiCad, but I was like, because I know I opened both of them. So I could go in there and do things, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was like, well, I want to move this trace over here. And then you grab the trace and it's like, well, there's part of a bus line here and there's no, terminate. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to get more deeper into that if I'm going to do that. But, okay, well, we'll get around to it, I guess. It's like, everything, we all have other commitments and things. And, but I kind of don't want to let the 1510 just die on the vine. It's kind of been that way here the last month or two because I've just been busy.
Well, Carl, it died on the vine in 1983 or whatever it was.
Well,
so you're bringing it back to life. It's
well, that's
the
right.
evergreen thing with you. So.
I'm bringing sexy back. But it's kind of cool, like you said, to have a physical cartridge to plug into the 1000 or the 1500. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Carl.
That's why I was saying that I think that it's better if you actually, unfortunately, if you had, not too many games on one, so that you have several cartridges.
Right. So you actually kind of get the old school feel. And hey, Joe, too, did you? I don't think yours has the PCB cover, right? Because there's like a spring inside there that they made. Well, it's not a spring, it's just kind of a piece of wire that they coiled around and it makes a spring that covers the PCB fingers, right? I don't think you made that. The fingers just come out, right? Because it's just probably easier to design it that way.
Yeah, I didn't add that, no.
Okay. Either way.
I don't think that was part of the cartridge that I was whittling down. The original files from the other Portuguese Timex computer.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you're right. I don't think those guys did that either. I think only the Timex Sinclair ones had the cover where it comes down and it covers the because I took the two cartridges that I have apart, and that's kind of I saw that, but I mean I put them back together by this point. But I'm sure that you can take a 2068 cartridge apart and maybe get that, but it doesn't really, it's just more would be for aesthetics, right? To more match what the real thing was here.
Well, Carl, for the 2068, one of the two, I don't remember which one it is, one of the cartridges has that like you said, that little spring loaded cover that when you would plug it in, it would just sort of slide back.
Mm-hmm.
The other one,
Right.
whichever the other one is has actually a little plastic doodad that you plug on top of the
Goes over it.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a separate piece that
You're
just
right.
plugs into it, and bizarre,
So the Portugal ones, right? The Portugal ones, because I have that. I actually have that cartridge, the Spectrum emulator cartridge, because
okay.
I have the Portugal 2068, and it came with that cartridge. And you're right, it has the little hat. Well, I guess I could call it a hat that you
Yes.
just put on the edge connector,
Yeah.
right? And it covers it. So, but I'm actually surprised that's still with it, because how easy is all those things to lose?
Mhm.
Port covers, crap like that. Once you unplug it, it's loose
Gone.
and you lose it. Right? So, and I think maybe that's why Timex did it that way, because it's captive, right? You can't lose it. It's part of the cartridge design. But yeah, you're right. That is true that the Portuguese ones do have that finger cover, the hat, whatever you want to call it. But maybe we could 3D print that. That'd be a lot easier than.
Oh, very
Well,
easy.
I don't know if it's easier, but yeah. But because to make a spring, I don't. It's like a piece of wire coiled around and back. If you ever take an Atari cartridge apart, similar thing, right? It has the like a piece of metal in there that pushes that thing down to cover the fingers,
Right,
right?
it's a dust cover is what it's considered.
Right, well, it's also, you don't want kids getting their statically charged fingers all over
I think peanut
you
butter's
know.
a bigger challenge with kids than
Yeah, well, they don't know anything about those things. Oh, look at these circuit in here. I don't, what? Yeah, I want to lick it, stick a sandwich in there like a VCR.
Yep.
But,
Carl, in order to for the 2068 cartridge, there's like physical limitations, thickness limitation of plugging something in.
yes, right.
But with the 1510 cartridge, that limitation doesn't exist. So I mean, ultimately the 1510 cartridge could be the same thickness, as the 2068 cartridge, or if you want to do it so that you can plug a through hole EEPROM in there, it could be made into a thicker cartridge. I mean, it depends
True,
on,
but
how
if you
faithful
wanted,
want to be.
right, and you're kind of on the path. If you wanted to stick it in the 1510 cartridge player itself, the real one, it wouldn't fit.
Right. Okay, that's good.
Right, because it'll be too thick. But I mean, if you stick it in our clone, well, it doesn't have a case yet. So it would just be all out in the open anyway. So yeah, it wouldn't matter, how thick it was at that point.
Well,
But
couldn't you also just make it as tall as you wanted? I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, but I think you want to not stick out of the 2068, right? That's why I think the 1510 doesn't matter. There's no height limitation, right? It just sticks out the top. But with the 2068, right, you close the door to keep it
right.
all.
I was
together.
talking about the 1510.
Yeah, but I was just thinking, if we're gonna make a cartridge, a cartridge case, you might as well make it for both, right? It's just that one thing, one case, and you don't have to make different cases for different products, right?
Yeah.
You have to make different PCBs, but that's the easy part, really. But anyway, just some spitballing ideas.
No,
I'm
it's
good for that.
It's great. I love it. I mean, it didn't occur to me that we could use the same, in essence, the same cartridge that Joe refined for the 1510. And now that I know, shit, let's do it. I'll redouble my easy EDA efforts of trying to apply the fixes that you came up with to that design, and then I know what the physical dimensions of that cartridge needs to be, so I can just copy that from the 2016 version and just put the notch in the right place and etc. Of course, yours has
now. What would be interesting, now that Right. Now, what would be interesting now you bring that up is actually, could we put a 1510 clone cartridge and make it work in the 1510 real product? Right. Because that's not really the way it's set up right now. So.
I don't see why not. I mean, because really the switching is external. It's not, you know, it's not integral to the project. So,
Well, the 1510 original product splits the RAM, you know, it can use 2 8K chips. That's how it's made.
yeah.
When I did the 1510 clone, I kind of said, okay, well, I'm not going to do that because I don't have 2 physical 8K chips. It's all going to be in one chip, right? So I kind of changed the logic there. That's why that diode AND gate is in there. That's not in the real 1510. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Maybe.
So we'd have to think about something there. You know, I'm sure it could be done, but there's just going to be a little bit more logic trickery because you're going to have the 2 lines that come in from the real 1510 player.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to have the lower 8K and you're going to have the high 8K lines, right? And the logic will select that. Whereas in mine, like I said, I just kind of AND them together. So if one or the other, then they go to the same EEPROM. And when you program the EEPROM, you have to, where you place the code has to be different, right? One
Okay.
has to be in the lower 8K and the other one has to be way up high.
Okay.
That way you don't have to mess with address lines and crap like that. But, you know, I don't want to modify a real 1510, right? I don't think any of us want to go in there and modify it, but we could do that modification on the cartridge.
Yep.
PCB, right?
And to Tim's point, these are kind of some of the details that are worth preserving, you know, in print. So,
right.
Yeah, think about that. Think about, you know, what kind of write-up can you do that's not super long, but you know, at least encapsulates and, you know, captures some of those design decisions and you know, makes it an
And if we get some good feedback, it may spur you to do it. You know,
Yeah.
We get
Yeah.
30 people going, "Hey, I want this."
Because I think in Europe it would be a much bigger. Again, it just, you know, it's obviously going to be a much bigger market there.
Yeah.
For something like that, and people probably would be like, I didn't even think about that. You know, now I can have a clone and I can have 4 or 8 of my favorite programs on a cartridge that I can load up on my, you know, ZX81. That'd be maybe really cool for them.
Hey,
especially if we get cases for everything, right, Joe?
We have a decision to make because it looks like our next meeting which is on theoretically on Sunday the 16th is also Father's Day. That's what my calendar is telling me. Is that a conflict for y'all? Do you want to move it to?
I won't be able to, I'll be at a barbecue, but you know, the meeting doesn't revolve around me.
Do we want to move? How about if we move it
also
to
my anniversary show?
The 23rd.
Ah, well, happy anniversary.
Very nice. Tim, you're having birthdays, you're having anniversaries. I mean, pretty soon you'll have your social security number.
Yeah.
Look at my old
basically,
you might find that.
Basically, yeah, you probably want to push it out a week.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna push it out to the 23rd. Okay, so yeah, and I'll send out a, you know, sort of special alert notice saying, you know, we're not meeting on the 16th and we're meeting on the 23rd, Sunday at 2:00 Eastern, because, you know, everybody here's mail right now.
Does that mean we're gonna push up the meeting for the first week of July, or we're gonna have one?
No, it'll just be back
a
to
week
back.
apart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll miss that first one in July.
Okay, that's
what? God bless America.
I'll be in the hospital again.
Oh,
yeah.
All right. Well, I guess if you must.
Maybe 1st. Ryan and Carl can come visit me. We can do Timex stuff. I'll be there for a week this time. So,
you know. Did your warranty expire?
My warranty? Yeah, around my brain, unfortunately.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thank you. I will bump that out. Once again, we've managed to kill 2 hours without even realizing it. Jack, thank you for working through the trials and tribulations of Zoom and joining us. And, you know, please come back because, you know. Go ahead.
I need to mention a couple things to Johnny Red here before we go.
Okay.
And first one is, you remember a fella named J.A. Villegas? He was the guy in Portugal that had all the parts and pieces for Spectrum.
Yeah, I believe I remember him. I lost track of him.
Yeah, well, what I remember is we tried to buy him out, but he wanted too much money.
Yeah,
Couldn't
true.
afford it.
It
And
was too much.
also what
Well, I know some people who can go give him a visit.
Good luck.
Nah. We're not into that. Also, I wanted to mention to Johnny Red that M&M's has another new flavor out right now.
Oh, I
Has it-
discovered Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh
Oh yeah.
my
Oh,
God.
you're
no,
like
they-
ET. You're like ET.
Wait,
They're like mocha, I think. He's
A
gone.
mocha M&M?
Yeah, there's a
think
bunch of
that's what
different
it
crazy
is.
flavors. Bunch of different.
It was well
I
when it,
moved to this one.
yeah.
So, Johnny, you are near and dear to my heart now, because for me, when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I spent my summers hanging out at the university's computer labs, and I would go and get a Reese's peanut butter cup and a Coke. And so for me, summer is programming, Reese's peanut butter cups, and Cokes. And now I'm like, why am I working? Why can't I program computers for fun?
Now, I have a question for David. And
Yeah.
that's how I saw some like Adam and somebody else did some text on the screen. How'd you do that?
Oh, so yeah.
Like you sent a message to somebody.
Oh, there's a chat. There's at the bottom of the screen. There's a little icon next to a green one that says share screen. There's a thing that says chat, and you can message
Yeah,
folks.
I see it.
Yep. Yep. You can message folks in that.
Oh, you just
Yeah, just pop into
Oh,
the pop into the
And you
chat.
can do it privately too.
Yep, you can write somebody
The
direct.
chat is only active while the Zoom meeting's online.
Yeah.
You can't chat. You can't do after the meeting.
Right. Right. All right, gentlemen. Thank
Yeah,
you.
there's also a Discord, so if you do want to do stuff outside of the meeting, like who set up that Discord, David? I can't remember.
Louis did. Yeah, there's a Jack, there's
Yeah.
another system called Discord. It's like a chat system. And there's a Timex, what is it called? Timex Sinclair 2068 group that you can go and chat with people there anytime. There's not a lot of folks in there all the time, but if you leave a message, other people will speak back to you. Yeah.
There is a Sinclair QL IRC that has a bot that connects to Discord.
Oh,
that's out there and it's available. And a lot of people on it are most everyone there is in Europe. It's a few of us in the US. But they start off with IRC first, then did Discord, but they built a link between, so they didn't totally abandon IRC. Because I don't need to go and create a Discord account just to have another account, another server someplace. I haven't got enough of those.
all right. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to end the recording. Let me see. Stop.